What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Order on the Court, the podcast where a bunch of subpar basketball players talk about a bunch of amazing basketball players. I'm Harrison.
I'm Colton. Let's get this started.
Let's do it. Okay, so first on the agenda, the big news this week is the Rockets offering 4 first-round picks for Jimmy Butler and then taking back that offer later in the week. It's funny to me because the first person I saw to comment on it on Twitter was Sean Marks, and he's giving the details. And for those of you that don't know, Sean Marks is the GM of the Brooklyn Nets. So this is the exact same offer that Brooklyn made for Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, and all that pretty much traded away their entire franchise future for 5 years. So if anyone has that information burned into their heads, it's Sean Marks.
Yeah, I mean, let's trade away Jimmy. Why don't you? I mean, why didn't they take that? But it is Houston, and they could end up being really, really good.
Well, and that's what I wonder is it a great deal for Houston? Because as you look at them now, Houston is 1-4. And they have no defense so far. Granted, they've played a couple games without Chris Paul because of that Lakers fight. But they're getting nowhere with what they've got. That's clear.
Jimmy Butler is the GOAT, but no. Who would they play? Where would he start? I mean, you got Paul Harden. He'd have to play the small forward.
Yeah, he'd probably have to be the small forward in that unless... No, I don't think they'd move Harden to small forward. They like him too much of that 2 guard.
Unless the beard was on his head.
Yeah, I know. Give him a little extra height. Yeah, well, I got to wonder if I'm Minnesota why they didn't take this deal, because as it stands, they're not going to win a title this year. No. I mean...
don't they have a better record than Houston?
They do have a better record, but that's not saying much. Houston's one of the worst teams in the Western Conference right now.
Yeah, second worst probably.
Yeah, they're getting outplayed by the Sacramento Kings. That's how
Lakers.
Bad they are. Exactly. Well, the Lakers got LeBron now, so I'll give them that.
LeBron and some scrubs.
Yeah. I don't know. Kyle Kuzma's been balling, but we'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah, that's later.
But, Minnesota, that's one heck of a deal, because if this downward trend continues, they get some decent first rounders. If they could have gotten a player out of that, I think that's an automatic you have to take it trade.
Like if they offered, if they had a reason, they offered a reason for Butler, I think they would have took it.
Yeah. Or, with Minnesota, I almost think if they'd offered someone like Eric Gordon, they could have gotten away with it, because Minnesota does need shooting. They don't have a lot of guys that can let it fly. And let's face it, I don't believe in Andrew Wiggins' jump shot.
I mean, Jimmy Butler's not afraid to let it fly.
No, he's not. And he's not the best shooter. So I guess you're right. Maybe they don't need...
Even in the locker room.
Yeah, that's true. Shout out to you, Jimmy Butler. You keep it real. I respect that.
He just wants honesty, like he said.
Well, and the coolest thing to me is when they confront him about what he said, he didn't back down. No. He's going to say what he wants to say. He knows it's the truth. He knows what he wants, and he stands by it. So that's pretty cool. But in terms of the Rockets now, what do they need? What are they missing? Because they just signed Clint Capella to this huge deal. They bring back Chris Paul on a big deal. James Harden signs a huge extension a couple seasons ago. What do they need? They brought in Melo. At least he's on a minimum, but he isn't doing anything for them.
Like Carmelo says, start him.
You think starting Carmelo does it?
Yeah, it would bring more attention off Harden. He is Carmelo. He can still go out and get a bucket on you any day of the week.
Well, and where do you think Melo fits with this team? Because Melo's traditionally a mid-range player, and the Houston Rockets are known for jacking up a lot of threes. They shoot like 43s a game.
Run the pick with him and Harden.
Yeah,
put him at the 4, start Capella, have him at the 4, and find a small forward that's defensive. Even go get Kyle Korver and play him at the 3.
See, that's interesting you mentioned, because I think Kyle Korver is going to be a hot commodity on the trade market this year. Because, let's face it, I don't see Cleveland really keeping this team unless they're dead set on the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
But Kyle Korver, it'd be interesting. He'd fit with Houston, definitely. Only problem is another guy who's not really a defensive guy. He's a good team defender. When he's got good defenders around him, he can do it. But nobody on that Houston team is playing defense, including Chris Paul, who's probably the best defensive player they have.
Yeah. I mean, Clint Capella's a better defender.
I'd say Chris Paul better overall. But Clint Capella, you're right. He is a good defender. He's a rim protector. But even he's looked a step slow. They just belong.
Once they get that max contract, they don't play as good as they used to.
Yeah, that seems to be the trend so far. But I don't know. I hate generalizing like that, but that's kind of how it's been.
Got the check and ran off with it.
Okay, so we were talking about Cleveland a little bit, and this is actually fairly new news. This is as of yesterday. It's Sunday for those of y'all listening. The 28th. Cleveland fired Tyronn Lue.
I heard about this on the way over here.
Yeah, well, you were one of the first to tell me. I'd seen a little Twitter blur when I was waiting for you to get here. Smart move for the Cavs. I think it's about time. It really shows the LeBron effect to me that LeBron's out there coaching that team. They're finals worthy. He leaves. They have literally the same team, except and they bring in a lottery pick rookie, and they stink. They are bad.
They are.
And granted, they didn't have Kevin Love last night, and they lost, but they've lost 4 games with Kevin Love. They're still struggling.
They're what, 1-6 or no? They're 0-6.
They're 0-6 right now. They're worse than the Rockets. And you wonder where Cleveland goes from here. They've got Larry Drew as their interim coach. He did some work with the Hawks and the Bucks back in the day, but
pretty sure he did.
Yeah, he didn't really get anywhere with those teams either. I really think, looking back at it, this Cleveland team could use a guy like David Blatt.
Yeah.
It's funny because they let him go years ago because LeBron just wasn't about working with him.
No, LeBron likes being the coach.
Yeah. Well, that's the nice thing to see in L.A. is he's letting Luke Walton do his thing.
Yeah.
I like Luke Walton.
It's a much younger team than he had in Cleveland, I think.
Yeah. And I wonder, too, because Kyrie Irving's kind of come out and said, look, I didn't leave Cleveland because of LeBron. I love LeBron. We're brothers. I just didn't like what was going on with Cleveland and that front office. And one of those front office decisions was to go with LeBron and get rid of David Blatt. And Kyrie was playing pretty well under David Blatt. Yeah, that offense was tailor-made for Kyrie Irving.
But that's another thing. LeBron didn't like the front office either there in Cleveland.
No, that front office is a dumpster fire in Cleveland. There's a reason they've lost 2 star players within the last 2 seasons.
And they traded away Isaiah Thomas too.
Yeah.
Well,
it's funny. You see Isaiah goes to the Lakers last year in that trade.
Yeah.
He seems to enjoy playing much more when he's there. LeBron looks like he's enjoying it much more in LA this year.
Isaiah goes to
and
Lakers.
He's losing. Yeah.
LeBron follows him. He's like, I wanted to stay here. Darn it. Denver I go.
Well, Kyrie goes to Boston, and it's like he's a new player. He's playing defense. He's passing the ball. Boston's really brought out the best in him. And you look at Cleveland and you think, what if they had a great coach? How many titles could they have won?
Yeah.
Because they won one. I don't care what anyone says. They won one basically on the strength of LeBron's work.
And almost won 2 off the strength of LeBron's work.
Kyrie hit that shot in the 2016 championship game, but LeBron got them there. If LeBron doesn't put in the work he did, Kyrie doesn't get put in that position to
2015, they were without Love and Kyrie, and LeBron
LeBron still gets him to take it to 5 games, 5 to 6 games. Yeah, he's crazy. He's clearly the best player in the world.
And was getting talk of, he's the MVP.
Exactly. And you got to wonder, with the best player in the world and a good coach, what's the ceiling for a team like that? But I don't know if LeBron's ever really had that great of a coach.
Yeah.
I mean, Eric Spoelstra's a great coach now. I'm a fan of Eric Spoelstra, but he wasn't this kind of coach when LeBron was there. Very young, almost new to the game. And I wonder if working with LeBron taught him how to assert himself with his players. Because LeBron's a very vocal guy.
I wonder if the same effect's going to happen to Luke Walton, but he's letting Luke coach.
Yeah. And the thing I wonder is, LeBron's such a fan of the San Antonio Spurs, and everybody wants him to end up playing there, but how does that work with Greg Popovich?
Yeah.
Because that's a guy who he's going to be heard in that huddle. It's not the players unless he wants the players to be heard. And that franchise has seen success because of it. So, I don't know. I just wonder what would happen if LeBron were to give in and let another guy sort of coach. And he's starting to show a little bit more leeway with Luke Walton, I think.
Luke Walton coached the Warriors, too, when Kerr was out, so...
Yeah, he's got experience. He knows how to win.
He led them to the best record in the NBA ever. Luke Walton did.
Yeah.
In my opinion, that was not Kerr. That was not Kerr.
No, it wasn't. And that was Kerr won Coach of the Year that year.
Yeah.
And everyone was saying, let's give it to Walton. I think he could have won a share of that award. That would have been cool. But
Oh yeah.
Walton, he's improved that Lakers team every year that he's been there. They go from, losing, and they almost make the playoffs last year. They have a decent record.
Yeah.
They look like they could make the playoffs this year.
They probably will.
Yeah, he's a guy who knows how to build his team, and I think that's really going to help LeBron in the long run.
Oh yeah.
So big scoring around the league this week sees the league's first 50-point game this season from Blake Griffin, of all people, out in Detroit. He does it against the Sixers. What'd you think of that performance?
That was great. It was well needed to see a nice high-scoring game. There was a lot of playoff basketball this past week.
Yeah, there really was. One thing I noticed about Blake Griffin was he took a lot of three-pointers in that game.
He had like 6 or 7.
Yeah, he looked almost like Ben Simmons, kind of.
He did.
Handling the ball. You know who he's started to play more like is Julius Randle.
Yeah.
And I hate saying that since Randle was drafted after him, but he's kind of that handle the ball big. DeMarcus Cousins does that too.
Yep.
But
Blake's been more successful from behind 3 than all of them, I think.
yeah, definitely. I think too. DeMarcus Cousins pretty inconsistent when it
Yeah.
comes down to threes. Randle doesn't shoot a whole lot of threes.
No, he doesn't.
Not to mention he's getting outshined still by Nikola Mirotic down in New Orleans.
Yep, he is.
But the big story in this one is Joel Embiid trash-talking Andre Drummond on the court and off the court after the game. He's talking about how he can't guard him. There's no way he can guard him. And I love Joel Embiid, but how do you give a guy flack for not being able to guard you when you've lost the game? And not to mention, the guy's teammate goes off for 50 on you and another one of your teammates. It's pot meat kettle over here.
And then, he flopped to get him out the game.
Yeah.
He got fined for that, too. He didn't even touch him. I was just like, oh, boy.
And to me, he can talk trash all he wants, but Andre Drummond was the guy who played defense the best on Embiid.
Yeah.
Embiid scored a lot on him, and a guy like Embiid, he's going to score the basketball. You can't stop him. You just contain him.
Just give him a hard foul. He won't do it again.
Yeah, but Drummond's that guy that did that. He worked him the best he could, and it paid off because Embiid didn't go off for 50. He only had he had 32 points in that game.
Blake still had 50.
Yeah, exactly.
And a game winner.
As long as you've got one guy who's outscored another guy by 20, if there's stars, you're pretty good.
Embiid had to guard him. They got Drummond out the game, so they didn't have to worry about him in overtime. So Joel Embiid, he got Andre Drummond out, and then Blake Griffin goes and hits a game winner on him. He goes all the way from the three-point line to the rim with 2 seconds left on the clock.
Yeah, and that was a bad defensive play from the Sixers. So if we want to talk about can't guard, there was no way he should have gotten that good of a shot on that last play of the game.
And then hit the free throw. If you last play of the game, hard foul him.
Yeah.
He's driving in.
That's ridiculous.
Put him at the line. Make him earn those 3 points.
You have to make him work for it. You can't give up easy buckets that.
It's a layup. And then, he gets to shoot the game winner at the line. Make him shoot the 3 at the line, in my opinion.
Not to mention, someone scoring 48 points on you just doesn't sound nearly as awful as someone scoring 50 on you.
No, it doesn't. Or 49.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes 49 sounds better than 48. I don't know. It's weird how numbers work.
Yeah.
But the big thing this week, Blake Griffin goes out, scores 50 that game. The very next night, Steph Curry has to one-up him. He drops 51 points.
The man couldn't miss at all.
No, not at all. And I don't know. I wasn't ready to say it in past seasons, but I'm just going to say Steph Curry is the best three-point shooter I've ever seen. I think he's going to probably rocket into the top 3 within these next 2 seasons in three-pointers made. He will pass Reggie Miller.
Oh, yeah. I was looking at a chart, and it was three-pointers made in a season, and it was a dot chart, and it was just there's Curry, and it was some ridiculous number, and then he goes up even more, and Curry is 30% higher in this one, in the 73-9 season, way higher than the season after that.
Well, I think some of that has to do with him getting fewer shots now that Kevin Durant's on the team.
Yeah.
And one
Still
thing,
a lot of threes.
Yeah, it's a ton of threes. I mean, Ray Allen's 3-point record has been shattered by Steph Curry in every single one of the last 5 seasons. That's how many threes he's hitting. It used to be you hit like 180, and that was a phenomenal season. We had a rookie hit more than that last year, and Steph Curry's up in like the high 200s. I think he hit 303 one season.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
That's crazy. But question about this Warriors team, how long can they stay together? That's kind of been what's brought up. Kevin Durant gets asked about free agency, and for the first time we hear him say, I'm just thinking about how much money I can get and all that. And he says he has no comment, but he says that.
Yeah.
Basically, the Warriors could offer him max money, but if they do, they're not going to be able to keep Klay Thompson.
No.
They've already got Draymond on a big contract, Curry's on a max, so they're going to have to pick between the guy that's homegrown there or the guy they brought in to help them win a couple more titles. Well, obviously Durant's the better player.
So, Golden State wants to win, and you've seen that. So I think they're going to keep Durant and let Klay walk.
Well, the question is, what if they throw all they've got at Durant, Klay walks, and then Durant decides he doesn't want to play there anymore? Because he's done what he set out to do in Golden State.
Yeah.
I mean, he wanted to win titles. He's won 2 back-to-back. Let's face it, probably going to be 3 this year. And judging by the trend, he'll be a 3-time Finals MVP come the summer.
Yeah. I mean, but where's he going to go?
Well, and I've looked at that. One option I've looked at is we've been talking off the podcast about Washington needing to rebuild. And if them not being good enough how they are. Yeah, they could start a rebuild if they get him to go to Washington, which is his hometown. They've got his old coach he likes, Scott Brooks. They could start something there. Yeah. They've got Bradley Beal they could keep. I don't know if they keep John Wall with that team.
I see him going to L.A. too.
L.A. could work. It'd be interesting to see him play beside LeBron. They did really well with each other in the All-Star game last year.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the guy L.A. needs. Well, that's the guy every team needs, let's be honest. It's Kevin Durant. But he's one of those guys, he isn't LeBron, and you do have to feel a little bad for him because...
I feel no hate or no love for KD.
Oh, I don't mean that. I think what KD did is ridiculous. You can't
There's
go
no
to...
sorrow in my heart for KD. Even if he had the weight, he'd be LeBron, but he ain't going to do that.
Well, I feel bad for him because I think if LeBron didn't exist, Kevin Durant would be the cemented best player in the league and the best player of the last 5 years.
You know how people say LeBron's better than Kobe?
Yeah.
I don't think they would say that about Durant.
Really?
I don't.
I think Durant's a better scorer than Kobe was. I don't know if he'll come out with more points than Kobe
Let's
did.
say everything stays the same in the NBA. Durant, but with no LeBron. So LeBron doesn't exist. Durant still goes to Golden State. He's still going to be hated for that. That means...
See, I don't think he goes to Golden State if there's LeBron. The entire reason...
If there's no LeBron?
Yeah, sorry. The entire reason he went to Golden State was because he couldn't get to LeBron in the finals, and he saw that the best team of all time couldn't beat LeBron in that finals. So he decides to join that team so they can beat LeBron in the finals. That's the LeBron effect. He can be mediocre in a season, but when playoff time comes, that man's unstoppable. You can't guard him. You can't stop him. Basically, your best hope in the playoffs is let's let LeBron score 60 and dish out 13 assists, and then make sure that the other guys on the team don't score anything besides those assists. Yeah. That's your strategy.
But I mean, in a way, you have to do that with KD too.
Yeah, and that's the problem with this Warriors team is that there's so many shooters on that team at an elite level. That's what I'm saying. I think Curry's the best shooter of all time. I think Klay Thompson's a top 5 guy up there as an NBA shooter of all time. And when you have to guard Kevin Durant in isolation, you're going to have to double him. So one of those two is always going to be open. And if not them... You got Draymond Green, who shoots a decent clip from the three-point line. And now you add in, when he gets healthy, DeMarcus Cousins. Yeah. And I don't see how that team loses this championship series in the summer at all. I will be shocked if Golden State's out of there.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing that had me laughing, DeMarcus Cousins hasn't played a single minute for Golden State yet, and he's already gotten his first technical foul.
Let's walk out on the court.
I was like, what are you doing, man? The guy just cannot help himself. He has to cause trouble out there with refs.
Yeah.
Which, it's kind of funny. I loved Rasheed Wallace back in the day and how he played with the refs, but I don't think he was as disrespectful as Cousins is sometimes.
I think Cousins would fit perfectly in the Jordan era.
Yeah, I think so.
Just don't give a crap and just beat the ever-living crap out of everyone.
He'd have fit in on that bad boy Pistons team, I think.
Or if he was on that Pacers team, the Malice and the Palace.
With Ron Artest,
Yes.
Jermaine O'Neal. It would have been a lot worse.
See, you would have had two of them on that side, and Cousins would be off up here in the nosebleed yelling at someone.
I tell you, it's going to be interesting if Houston gets their stuff together and gets to the Western Conference Finals or something like that. Well, that's one thing. But Cousins has that consistent feud with Chris Paul. Imagine that in the Western Conference Finals, and there's already all the drama involved with getting there.
Oh, yeah. You know the one person I want to see Grayson Allen kick or trip is DeMarcus Cousins.
If Grayson Allen tries to trip DeMarcus Cousins, he's never going to play basketball again. That's the thing, is he's not going to be able to get away with that in the NBA. He's with the big boys now.
Cousins is going to pin him against the stanchion.
Well, Cousins has done worse to people who've done nothing to him. The guy has clearly got some form of temper problem on the court. One of the best centers in the league.
It's not a bad thing to have in the NBA.
Not always.
General...
But it's how you channel it.
Yeah.
I mean, there were games. I remember watching him play the Spurs when he was back with the Kings.
Yeah.
And there were plays in there. He could not guard Tim Duncan. And this was a 38-year-old Tim Duncan that he's trying to guard. And it wasn't working. That's how good Tim Duncan was. And he's getting frustrated. And on the other end, he commits like 4 offensive fouls. 2 of them go uncalled. Duncan's like, what the heck? You got to call that. But every time Duncan scores on him, he's getting so mad that he just sat there and pouted. And he'd trudge up the court, wouldn't get back on offense, then demand the ball. And you can't do that as a star player on a team. And who knows, maybe this Warriors team will teach him how to really play as a team. Maybe not, but
I mean, if he rides the bench the whole year.
Yeah. I think, would you say it's safe to say he's gone, Cousins is, after this year?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I can't see him signing for another minimum. I think this season he knew he was going to miss most of it with his injury. Might as well take a pay cut and get a ring in the meantime, right?
Or go, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's not a bad clip for having an injury.
Yeah. Or get paid. Either way.
Yeah, but... he wants a ring.
Now, I wonder if he's going to get any offers this offseason.
He's definitely going to get some. You cannot let that guy go unoffered. I don't care what attitude problem he has. If you're a struggling franchise and you need help winning, that guy's going to add at least 7 to 8 wins to your team just by being there.
Yeah.
But
just goes to Charlotte and plays with Kemba. That wouldn't be a bad fit.
That wouldn't be a bad fit at all.
But he isn't going to go to a small market.
Yeah, he likes the spotlight and all that.
I could see him in New York.
New York would work. I don't really know if the coach there is going to tolerate him. David Fizdale is a tough guy. I like David Fizdale.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird. Memphis got rid of him after a decent season because they didn't like the direction he was going. He wanted to change it up and go a little more offensive. In Memphis,
defense.
They're that grit and grind. That's their slogan. And that only gets you so far in this league.
We're not in the 90s.
Yeah, I mean, you have good defensive teams, but I've watched the Warriors shred good defensive teams in just one quarter, and then that's the game. It's that third quarter with the Warriors. They'll come out flat the first 2, then you get out of there, and all of a sudden Curry's hit 5 threes on you in the first 3 minutes.
27.
Yeah, that 37-point quarter. He did that in the third quarter. That's the Warriors' quarter. We're going to call it there. But defense only gets you so far.
Oh, yeah.
And it seemed like the Grizzlies didn't really want to embrace that change. And even now, they're still drafting for those guys. I'm not sure Marc Gasol stays there after this year.
Or Mike Conley.
Yeah, Mike Conley is a guy I feel so bad for. He hates being called underrated in this league. He feels like he's proven himself, but just because of the elite level guards that keep cropping up in that Western Conference,
And
I think he's always going to be called underrated.
Yeah. And he's stuck in Memphis.
Yeah, I like how he plays, though. He's a really good defensive point guard. As I say, he hates being called this, but a very underrated scorer.
Yeah.
I mean, he torched the Spurs 2 years ago in the playoffs. You know, they won the series. That was when they still had Kawhi Leonard healthy and playing. And
They used to be really good when O.J. Mayo was there and Rudy Gay and him.
yeah, well, and even when they traded away Rudy Gay and brought in some other people, that lineup they had with, I think it was Mike Conley, they had Tony Allen, Tayshaun Prince, Zach Randolph, and then Marc Gasol.
Very defensive team.
That was a tough team, yeah. And even a couple years ago, they bring in Lance Stevenson. He played there. He was pretty good. Ben McLemore was decent there with them. Now he's back with the Kings.
I feel like Memphis is one of those teams no one cares about. I feel like people like the Kings more than they like Memphis.
Yeah, for all the talk about media forgetting the Spurs, Memphis flies under the radar every year. And granted, it's been justified the last couple of years because they've not been that good.
No. They went to the Western Conference Finals with that team with Randolph. And
yeah, well, and back in 2008, they were the consensus 4 to 6 seed.
Yeah.
They went 4-0 against San Antonio in the regular season, and they tanked intentionally to get that 8 seed to play the number 1 seed Spurs in the playoffs, and they beat them. They knocked off the Spurs in that one, and that was a good Spurs team.
It was.
That team likely goes on to play the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals that year. Instead of giving the Lakers that easy of a road to play the Magic in the finals. And let's be real, the Magic weren't going to win that year.
With Dwight Howard, and that was it.
Well, he was still good, but I mean...
It was a young Dwight, like Shaq was there.
Yeah, I mean, but they had Vince Carter and some guys there. Carter was still decently in his prime. He was doing pretty well. Rashard Lewis, guys like that. Courtney Lee. But... there's no way they were beating the Lakers, one. There's no way they're beating the Spurs with the big three all in their primes. So that Grizzlies team, they've strategized and they know what they're doing. I think their draft move was a pretty good one. Jaren Jackson Jr., that's a lot of J's right there to say.
Jaren Jackson Jr. Triple J.
Yeah, I know. But I like his game. He's kind of a stretch 5. Plays similar to Marc Gasol, good defender, strong guy. One thing I'm not sure about is they tie up a lot of money with Kyle Anderson.
Don't they still have Chandler Parsons too?
Yeah, he's on a horrible
They
deal.
paid like $70 million.
Yeah, well, and it's making the Mavs look like geniuses for getting rid of him. They got criticized a ton for getting rid of him. Same with the Rockets. Daryl Morey got criticized. And I'll admit it, I criticized Daryl Morey for getting rid of Chandler Parsons too, because I thought he was that glue guy on the Rockets team. And for a while, the season after, the Rockets were worse after getting rid of him. So that was a little justified. But then they bring in Trevor Ariza, and they really get things rolling. Plus, they get a coach. J.B. Bickerstaff was not the guy to have coached that team.
Didn't he coach it for 1 year or 2?
Yeah, just a year. And it's funny we mentioned J.B. Bickerstaff because the Rockets team struggled. J.B. Bickerstaff's now the head coach at Memphis. And,
boy.
Yeah, which is funny because I guess they picked him to emphasize the defense after Houston played absolutely no defense, and that season he was head coach there. But
can we just be the coach or the owners of Memphis?
Hey, I'd love to. I'll take that pay. I'm doing this for free. I'd love to talk basketball
I'll take half
all
the
day.
pay.
Amen to that.
We could build a better team than they're doing right now.
But like I said, they tie up Kyle Anderson to a 4-year deal. Kyle Anderson's a good player. I'm not sure he's worth as much money as they gave him.
No.
Not a lot of teams were offering him. Obviously, San Antonio wanted to bring him back just because they drafted him a couple years back and want him to be part of that team. But they weren't willing to pay that much. But I want to get into their game with the Suns last night a little bit. The Grizzlies come away with this victory. Suns are a young team, but DeAndre Ayton, another big showing, puts up 28 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. We talked about this guy a little bit in the last episode.
We did.
But what do you think the ceiling is for this guy? And can the Suns put together a winning team with him? And will he stay? That's a big sigh.
I want to say he does stay there in the long term, but they need another piece. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. You trade away. They got rid of Brandon Knight. They got rid of Bledsoe. Am I correct? Brandon Knight's not there anymore. I would say go after a guy like Michael Porter that's not playing this year. See if you can get him. And
what if he's a bust though? That's the thing.
Phoenix has one of the best training staffs in the league, and
that's true. For those of you that don't know, Phoenix's medical staff is like world renowned for their work in sport medicine. A lot of times, if people want second opinions on players, they send them to Phoenix's medical staff. That's how they keep guys like Steve Nash in the league that long.
Yeah, and Stoudemire with his eye.
Yeah. Well, Stoudemire, remember when he broke his hand in New York? Punching the fire extinguisher? He needed Phoenix then, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But what do you think they need? Do they need a point guard? Do they need a power forward?
They have Tyler Ulis.
No, he's gone. They let him go this offseason.
They did? Who's their point guard right now?
They've got DeAnthony Melton right now. He's the rookie. They got him in the Houston trade that brought Ryan Anderson over. Sent Marquise Chris down to Houston.
I mean, I would try to get Porter and draft a point guard this season. And I mean, in the meantime, play Booker at the one.
So I think they need a power forward. I think Melton's going to develop into a solid player. But
they let Alex Len go.
Yeah, he's in Atlanta now.
Yeah.
But Alex Len wasn't doing much in Phoenix. He's kind of answered the question, can he be a force in this league? A lot of guys weren't sure. He was drafted in the top 10 in that draft.
But there wasn't really anyone else in that draft.
Well, the problem was that's their problem with drafting with potential is he's a 7-footer. He wasn't even the best player on that Maryland team.
No.
I mean, that Maryland team had Des Wells on it. They were a good team, but Alex Len didn't even make an All-ACC team that year. And if you don't make an All-ACC team, kind of weird to see you in the draft lottery, to be honest. You look at past guys who have made All-ACC teams who are in that lottery, they're much better than Alex Len ever is.
I think it's every team goes through that phase. They draft a 7-footer. Oh, he's going to be great.
Well, and you wonder because the 7-footers are kind of declining in this game. But back to the Suns, the power forwards they have, Ryan Anderson's there. Ryan Anderson's on one of the worst contracts in the NBA.
60 million, something like that.
Yeah. Houston overpaid him and then sat him on the bench for a season. I didn't really get that because 2 years ago, Anderson looked unstoppable with the Rockets.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a Houston thing. Let's overpay you, then we put you on the bench.
Well, unless you're James Harden. But I don't know if he's considered overpaid. I think they're getting their money's worth out of him. But I just don't think Anderson's not going to be around that much longer. No. Plus, he's a three-point shooter. He's not going to bang in the post. He's not going to take you off the dribble.
He's a pick and pop, not a roll.
Yeah, he's a better Matt Bonner is what he is.
Yeah.
But you look at the other power forwards they had, Dragan Bender. He's still young, but he looks like a guy who's just going to develop into Ryan Anderson. And one guy that comes to mind for me at least is, well, two guys actually. Patrick Patterson from Oklahoma City, good stretch four, solid in the post, he can pass, and Amir Johnson with the Sixers.
I don't think either of those teams are giving up players anytime soon.
Neither do I, but free agency might yield some dividends there.
They got cap room.
Yeah, either way though, it's clear the Suns made a really good pick with Ayton at the first slot. I don't know why a lot of people were saying take Doncic first. And Doncic has had some good games for the Mavs. He looks like he's going to be a bona fide star in this league. I mean, come on. DeAndre Ayton, it just continues to impress me.
I still say try to get Porter or even draft a small forward and then try to sign a point guard this offseason.
See, I'm wary of Porter. I know he was a steal where the Nuggets got him.
Oh, yeah.
We still don't know if he's going to be able to play, though. I like the guy, but I just think it's too much of a risk. The Nuggets at least have a good enough team. I mean, and they're set at power forward and center right now with Jokic and Millsap.
I feel like he's more of a small forward.
Yeah, I think so. But even so, the Nuggets are still set up to where they can win without Porter.
Yeah.
The Suns are not. If they trade away assets for him, and then you look, if they end up with a top 10 pick this year, they could not win a lot of games, end up with a top 5 pick, and then you've got your pick of Barrett, Williamson, Little, Reddish, all those guys. Even Rui Hachimura with Gonzaga would be a great small forward.
Now
pick.
we're talking about college players. You know who think would be a good fit there that can play the 2, 4, or 1? Tyler Hero from Kentucky.
Yeah, he's good. I'll have to see him play. We haven't seen him play at a college level yet. That's the problem with these ones and dones.
Yeah.
But, you talk about a guy like Rui Hachimura. He's very similar to Rudy Gay.
He is.
That's a good type of forward for the Suns to have there. Trevor Ariza's doing his best, and he's playing well, but he's not going to be that star player that carries a team. And right now, honestly, I think they're just looking for a third option. Because let's face it, it's going to be Devin Booker first, then DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah.
They just need that third guy to round it out. But they'll figure it out. They're already better than last year. That's a start. But, a hot start for DeAndre Ayton, so it's good to see that. Speaking of guys with hot starts, we talked a little bit about him last week, but Kemba Walker, this guy is still leading the league in scoring, flat out putting the ball in the basket. The Hornets are not that great of a team, but he's proving that he's a great player.
Oh, yeah. His low night was like 28 points.
Yeah, that's his lowest scoring total of the year.
Yeah.
That's crazy. He put up 36 the other night. So he's already had a 40-point game. Yeah. He's already had a 30-point game.
2 30-point games.
Yeah, and you think with all these scoring rampages this week, it's only a matter of time before he drops 50.
Yeah, and I think he's done that before.
He's done it before with the Hornets, yeah. He's got the franchise record for points all time.
Everything.
He's got points in a game, assists, I believe.
Season.
Yeah, he means a lot to Charlotte, and I think he means a lot to the league. But we've talked about Walker. We've talked about this guy some, but I have to talk about this game because hearing the story afterwards just made me laugh. It was so funny. Damian Lillard versus the Orlando Magic.
Oh, yeah.
First half, Lillard scores only 7 points, and his team's down. And we don't hear about this till after the game, but apparently an Orlando fan is sitting there trash-talking him. Yeah, trash-talking him to his face. And Lillard turns around and tells him to shut up. And the guy makes some comment about how Lillard's trash or whatever. Lillard tells him, remember this. You did this to your team. You don't want this.
Yeah.
Comes out in the next quarter, third quarter, next half scores 34 points. Finishes with 41. And the Blazers come back and go on to rout the Magic.
Yeah.
How baller is that?
I mean, players have a thing. Don't trash talk them.
Yeah, and Lillard's got that Kobe mentality.
Unless you're a player.
Yeah, that stuff just motivates guys like that. If you get guys that are real emotional on the court,
he's one of them.
Could impact him negatively, but not Damian Lillard.
It's going to impact him positively.
Yeah, that guy, he is going to be there when the game is on the line. He's a game-time player, and we've talked about this time and time again, how underrated he is. But another underrated guy out east, Zach LaVine. We didn't talk about him last week.
And he had a few 30-point games.
Yeah, he had 4 straight 30-point games. He broke that streak. I think he had 26 the next.
He's tied Michael Jordan.
Yeah, I mean, Zach LaVine is balling out in Chicago. They've still got a lot of work to do out there, especially defensively. But Zach LaVine has carried that Bull team more than I ever thought he would.
Oh, yeah. Can we just stop this, Chicago fans? Let's stop comparing him to Michael Jordan. It's only the second week of the season.
No, he's definitely not Jordan.
He's not the second coming.
But he's giving them that kind of presence right now. And, we were wondering, because Sacramento offered him a huge contract this offseason. They wanted LaVine. Yeah. And Chicago matched that. And everyone was thinking, are they crazy? They're tying up their salary cap. They need players. But if he can deliver you 26 to 30 a night, you found that star.
Oh, yeah.
And they've still got room for a max. And they've got young developing guys. Markkanen hasn't played a lot.
No.
And he's a great power forward.
Around him.
Yeah, definitely. I think they need a point guard, to be honest. Either that or a small forward.
I agree with you on that one.
Yeah, that's what they're
Wholeheartedly.
missing. And Chris Dunn could be that guy. He hasn't lived up to expectations.
Came out of Providence.
Yeah,
So-
well, he was a stud at Providence.
Yeah, and I mean, thinking of playing in Providence, you don't play against top competition all that time.
Yeah, but I mean, you look at, even in the tournament, in the second round there, they play against North Carolina.
Yeah.
North Carolina went on to the championship that year. Chris Dunn had like 35 points and 11 assists against Carolina. He can clearly play with the elite guys. He's had some big plays in the NBA. I think he just hasn't really gotten a big chance.
Yeah.
In Minnesota, the year they drafted him, they bring in Jeff Teague, and you got to start Jeff Teague. He's got the experience.
Oh, yeah.
I think he is a better player right now.
Chris Dunn's better than Cameron Payne, too, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so too. He has been hurt a little bit. Dunn
Yeah.
has, so he hasn't played a lot. But it'll be interesting to see that dynamic, and if having a scorer like Levine next to him takes some pressure off.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's not going to be the one-on-one creator he was at Providence in the league. But I think he could still be a successful creator.
Definitely.
Okay, last guy I want to talk about, DeMar DeRozan. First off, somebody needs to tell the Toronto Raptors that they're really good this season.
Yeah.
Yeah, 6-0 start.
Eastern Conference all the way. To the finals. They'll be the team playing. Forget Boston.
I don't know about that. Let's not get ahead of.
That was all
We just
sarcastic,
talked
by the
about
way.
how. Oh, I don't know if we can.
Yeah,
we
I
can
know.
call it. This is early last podcast, and here you go making assertions.
I was being sarcastic.
Okay, but Toronto's looking good. It's clear that Kawhi Leonard trade is paying off for them. But on the flip side, the Spurs, I don't think they knew exactly what they were getting with DeMar DeRozan. They knew he could score, but this guy has turned into one of the best playmakers they've ever seen down in San
15
Antonio.
assists.
14.
14.
14 against LA. He had the exact same stat line as LeBron James
Oh,
in that
yeah.
first Lakers game. 32 points, 8 rebounds, and 14 assists.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, when your sidekick, LaMarcus
That was
Aldridge,
a career
posts...
high, too.
Yeah, career high in assists. When your sidekick posts 37 points and, like, 10 rebounds, it's hard to beat that Spurs team.
Yeah, it definitely is.
That was an OT thriller. It was a 143-142 win for the Spurs.
Especially for the Lakers, and you got LeBron and Kuz. And
Yeah.
Davis, Caldwell Pope.
Well, and Kuzma impressed me in that game,
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
I think he had 37 as well.
Something like that, yeah.
He was on fire. He's definitely the most improved rookie from that
Definitely.
LA team. He looks ready. And in the past, I doubted him, but seeing how he works and his improvement, I think he's got a place in this league.
Oh,
but
yeah.
DeRozan, it begs the question, do the Spurs continue to run somebody at point guard with DeJounte Murray out if DeRozan is playmaking this well for them?
I wonder how well it'll fit when Murray gets back, but I would say no. I'd let Forbes come off the bench.
I think the same thing. I think it'll work fine when Murray's back, especially because Murray brings
Yeah.
that defensive component.
He's a lot bigger than Forbes,
Definitely.
He's like
He's
Forbes-
6'5", yeah.
Yeah,
Forbes
Forbes
is like 6'2", 6'3".
if that.
Forbes is one hell of a shooter.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
averaging like 16 points a
Yeah, I
game
wonder
right
if-
now.
how many threes did Forbes hit that game?
Forbes, he hit like 4.
Start him and have DeMar play the 1 and Forbes play the 2.
Yeah, well, part of me wonders, do you start DeMar at the 1 and then bring a guy like Marco Bellinelli in at the 2,
true.
who is just a knockdown automatic three-point shooter? DeRozan can penetrate. Then you leave room. You can also have someone like, I don't know, Davis Bertans at the small forward, Rudy
Yeah.
Gay at power forward, and then Aldridge at
They
center.
all can hit threes.
Yeah. And Aldridge is embracing that center role a bit. I know the whole thing when he first came to San Antonio was he wanted to play power forward. He didn't
Yeah.
want to play center. But as small ball has progressed and Powell has regressed, he's getting old. He's not going to be a star
House
player
won
anymore.
38.
Yeah. He's up there. But LaMarcus has become more open to playing that center spot.
Definitely.
And he's thriving there. You can see it mostly in his rebounding and his defense. But DeRozan is the catalyst for all this. And
Isn't he on a 1-year deal?
no, he's still got 2 more years
2 more
after
years?
this year.
Yeah, so he'll probably resign.
He may resign. So far, his experience looks like it's pretty good in
Yeah.
San Antonio. It seems like he enjoys playing there. But you see all the players tweeting about how they didn't realize how good he was on the ball when he wasn't scoring and off the ball when he wasn't scoring.
That's what happens when you play in Canada and you're not known except for in Canada and a few names here in the States.
Yeah, well, and all the Raptors fans are saying they knew, but Derozan wasn't playmaking like that.
No,
they had Lowry as the
yeah.
playmaker. Derozan was there to put the ball in the basket, and I think Popovich is asking a bigger role out of DeRozan.
Oh, yeah, with those players out.
And he's delivered. I mean, he could be a dark horse candidate for MVP if that Spurs team can put it together and have a good record. Because if he's carrying that team, they make the playoffs, they win 50 games again.
Yeah.
I don't see why not. It's a long shot given how Anthony Davis has done and how the Pelicans have started off. But he's definitely throwing his hat into that ring. But to get into the Pelicans, for my money, the most entertaining game of the week, just because it ended so stupidly. And it's fitting that we end on this because we talk about Brooklyn and what a dumpster fire their front office was years ago. That's their off-the-court stuff. Then we see Brooklyn at the end of this podcast and the dumpster fire that they are on the court. So they're up by 2.
Yeah.
Or no, 1 against the Pelicans. And it comes down to the last 10 seconds of the game. All Brooklyn has to do is dribble the clock out, and they turn the ball over on a stupid errant pass.
The clip's on our Instagram, too, if you want to go see
go
it.
check that out. It's OOTC Podcast on Instagram. They turn the ball over, goes out of bounds, with 7 seconds left on the clock. All they had to do was let that clock run down, and they get a win. Instead, they throw it out of bounds on a careless pass. New Orleans gets it. They go to Drew Holiday, dribbles at the top of the key, pulls up from mid-range, and nails a game winner.
I love Drew Holiday as a point guard.
Oh, love him. He's a great player. There's no reason he should have been able to have that shot, though.
Yeah.
That's just horrible decision-making from the Nets.
It was actually like it was a hot potato out there.
And to give him credit, it was good ball movement before the turnover. But that last pass, Russell got pressured by Holiday. Yeah. He shouldn't have thrown that pass that fast.
He could have just held on to it and got fouled.
Yeah, and there was no one over there by LeVert. He could have just dropped it on the floor, let it roll to him, and he would have had time. Instead, he fires one over.
Or throw it up in the air.
Yeah.
Just hard as you can.
Make sure it doesn't come down for another 7 seconds.
It doesn't hit the ceiling.
But instead, the Nets end up blowing it, and the Pelicans come up with a win. Another impressive game from Nikola Mirotic. Yeah. He's really playing well at that power forward spot. They do. They're 5-1 right now. Oh, yeah. They're looking good. Finally, the Pelicans are putting together somewhat of a contender.
Definitely.
It looks
Drew Holiday's finally playing really, really good there.
Yeah, and Randall plays well.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't have Davis play the other night, so they did lose. But, I mean, when Davis is there, he gives you the chance to win every time he's on the court.
Tonight?
You gotta wonder.
But I mean that new rule where you have to notify the NBA before you rest the player.
Yeah, of course I like that rule.
Yeah.
It's tough when fans are paying money and they go to games and the players they paid to see aren't playing.
Yeah, like us when we tried.
Yeah, amen. But Anthony Davis, if the Pelicans keep winning, he looks like he could be MVP like the next 5 seasons. And if his teammates keep playing the way they are, and if teams keep messing up the way Brooklyn did against the Pelicans,
I think
they're in a position to do that.
Like that, or San Antonio.
No, maybe not, but still, you got to give credit to Holiday. He did force that error. It wasn't like nobody was out there playing defense. Yeah, they were. Yeah. And credit to the whole Pelicans team. They didn't give up, and they came away with the win.
Another game winner this season.
Yeah, there's been a couple of them this season. It's been a good start. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this episode. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram, OOTC Podcast. Follow us on Twitter, OOTC Podcast HC on Twitter.
Turn on post notifications and hit the little bell beside subscribe so you don't ever miss an upload.
Yeah, and don't stop balling. That was so lame. I can't believe I said that. We'll see you next week, guys. We totally screwed up that high five after that, too.